All right, ladies and gentlemen, with a surprise interview, I am honored to have Ben Davis for another in-person interview. Finally, drove out of my way for this, man. Ben, you're finally here, at a CrossFit event. How's everything going with that?
It's good, man. Yeah, I mean, engaging in different athletic disciplines, I think is going to make me all around better in every area. And the CrossFit community, hard to beat these guys and gals. I mean, toned, sculpted, but very nice people as well.
Of course, there's actually, especially within like the past year, a lot of things have happened. When I last talked to you, you said you had a surprising fight coming up, and that was actually the BKFC event. Now that like we're months apart and everything like that, how was it kind of like fighting on bare knuckle? And like, tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, the fight sucked. The fight was very challenging. Anyone who watched it understands. I couldn't get anything going whatsoever. Oscar had a brilliant game plan, executed it to perfection. But outside of that, I felt great about everything. The fight week was very fun. I feel Oscar and I brought so much value to that first event on DAZN for BKFC that they maybe didn't even realize until the media storm started taking over about our bout instead of the title fights that were on the card or any of the other individuals that are competing. Nothing against them, but me and Oscar know how to pump up a fight. So in that regard, I was pleased with it. But yeah, I was very bummed about the fight. It was frustrating, and if this was something I was more primarily focused on and prioritizing, competing, then it would be a huge blow. But because again, I'm not a guy that's trying to be the best fighter in the world. So even though it was a pretty devastating defeat, life moves on.
One thing I saw after the fight, I saw Conor McGregor come up and just start hugging both of you guys.
Oh, that was weird. That was, dude. So I'm crying on the cut man's shoulder, and Conor comes over and he's like, "It's okay, don't worry, no worries, you're fine." And I was just like, "Oh, that's Conor McGregor," and that's why when he raises both of our arms, I'm just pointing at him because I was like, "This isn't this weird." I was concussed. I was very concussed, and what sucks is, because he did come in and whisper some things. And then after he raised our hands, he said some things, which I'm sure were super nice. Yeah. But I was concussed. I had no clue what he was saying, and I can't remember any of it. So,
That's so funny because I was because I remember this is just right when Conor McGregor got announced for being the owner. Yeah. I just see him get in the ring and start hugging you and Oscar, and I'm like, wait, Conor McGregor's in the ring? I thought that was so funny.
And I've said this story a couple times, but the first knockdown that Oscar got was directly in front of Conor, and so I'm kind of eat an uppercut in the clinch, go down, and I hear Conor say, "You gotta keep your chin tucked, mate." And I literally was looking, I was making eye contact, and I was like, "Thanks," and then got back up and got dropped 4 more times.
That's hilarious.
That was interesting moment, fun night.
Yeah. What about on the fighting aspect of things? I know last fought BKFC. Anything you're interested in the future that you're kind of looking out for, or tell me about that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of been the driving force of me competing was just turning over all of the different stones that I could. Started with Misfits boxing, gloved boxing, then graduated to karate combat, then evolved into bare knuckle boxing, and it was this fun trend of doing every type of sport and promotion that I could. So for me, I kind of, after the bare knuckle loss, was looking at it okay, well, there are a few other things I've done. I did karate combat, but maybe glory kickboxing, right? Kickboxing isn't something I've done before. Maybe a return to CFFC doing the pro grappling would be interesting. Obviously, mixed martial arts was kind of the end goal. I feel like I was working and building to an MMA debut, and then maybe that would be it. But at this moment in time, I mean, it's tricky to find time and energy to prioritize training and really skill building, right? So I think for me, what could be next competitively is another Misfits boxing match. There's a few names that have called me out that I'd be interested in, and I know that the money would be great, so maybe I'll do that next.
That'll be fire. I know on the Misfits boxing, right? You do both fight on the side, but also commentate too. How has that commentating journey been, on Misfits? And I kind of want to, after the Misfits thing, I kind of want to talk about other stuff. But yeah, originally with Misfits, what have you kind of grown out of it since being on the play-by-play side of Misfits boxing?
It's just experience. It's high-level reps. You're working with an organization in DAZN that has such a well-oiled machine between the directors, producers, camera ops, everybody on the team that makes those events as amazing as they are. And so that's a challenge because you need to step up into that environment. For me, I'm a guy who had such a non-traditional entry into play-by-play commentary that, this was all something you got to rise to. And thankfully, I feel I've really leveled up throughout the time I've been with Misfits, and have added a great amount of value and excitement, and found more of my voice and more of my own style inside the booth. And it's just reps that you can't get elsewhere, like doing the presenting on that type of a stage, working in an arena in Dublin. We had 13,000 screaming fans, right? That type of atmosphere isn't something that I can normally maybe find in a play-by-play rep. So in that note, I just feel like it's incredibly transformative for me, and just so grateful to have that as one of the things that I'm lucky enough to do.
100%, and on other aspects too. I've seen you commentate on other shows. On top of my head, CFL has been the one that you've done commentating for. How's that been, being on like a developmental show to obviously Misfits? How's that journey been?
It's funny because I just mentioned with how Misfits is so professional and DAZN has such a big and spectacular broadcast. CFL is the exact opposite. Not taking anything away from them, but what Anthony Taylor is doing is very grassroots. It's bare bones, and it's building blocks. We're doing CFL 5 on July 18th in Nashville, and it's so impressive to me that this is the 5th event in CFL's history, and the company's only been around for about a year and change, right? The UFC, when the UFC was starting, it was many months in between events, right? It took them a while to find their momentum, and so I think AT's doing such great work, and it is cool being on the developmental side of things, and I've taken on a lot more, I would say, roles within CFL, wearing more hats with them, whether it's the kind of direction side of the broadcast and helping the producing, as well as the play-by-play, or even just the lead-up, creating the social media game plan, organizing, which players are going to be on the team, and getting the press conference squared and getting all these other things squared away. So it's cool to play around in that sandbox. That's not fight night or fight week focused, which I think makes me better and hopefully makes CFL better. But we got a long way to go with CFL. I'll tell you what.
Oh no, for sure. What about because obviously you talked about developmental, so kind of similar to the Contender Series for UFC.
Yeah.
Who is someone that kind of stuck out to you within CFL that
It's got to be Chris Burgoon. It's got to be fucking Chris Burgoon. This kid has some really great style to him inside the ring, action-packed fighter, but he also has a sense of the walkout. He has the violinist coming up before him, creating this great atmosphere, this ambiance, and I think there's a charisma and confidence that Chris brings that would work perfectly in Misfits. I think he's past due for a Misfits opportunity, and I'd love to see it. And seeing Chris's evolution and the ways that he's added to that arsenal, both inside the ring and outside of it. You look at him and you go, that guy is entertainment. He gets it, and those are the types of people that I think should graduate to Misfits. There are some people that come through CFL where I look at them and they fight and I go, this might not be for them. This might not be a person that can step up to the next level. And that's just kind of what fucking happens when you're in a developmental league. Either some people develop or they do not. And that's that as well. But yeah, not everyone can get the fucking golden ticket, man. But Chris Burgoon is certainly someone that should.
No, for sure. I know, with CFL, what's very interesting, what kind of caught my eye, I guess, is the attention around CFL. And I see Mams pop into these events all the time and everything like that. Why do you think there's so much attention, so much, I want to say, people go out of their way to go and see this product? What would you say that that's the reason for?
I think the biggest reason why so many people would sacrifice resources, energy, time to be at a CFL event or tune into it or be a part of it is because of that Misfits opportunity, right? There is a very tangible possibility that, hey, the step up that I've been looking for can be found here. And that's proof in fighters like Jenny Savage, who have appeared on CFL and then main evented against Elle Brooke, right? Mm-hmm. So there is evidence that CFL is the breeding ground for, like you mentioned, the Contender Series, the next wave of Misfits talent. And maybe that's some of AT's, thinking, putting it down the road for Mams Taylor. So you've got the big head honcho of Misfits who's always appearing, will make time, and he's like, why not? Why would I not go see a boxing event that my buddy AT's throwing? So I think that's the big reason, because there is, and that might be the thing that Breakout Boxing, Outcast Boxing, Brand Risk don't entirely have at the moment, is this pipeline to Misfits. This clear evidence that, yes, you can go from this stage to the next. Whereas with CFL, we do have that.
For sure. Just a couple more things about what you've been doing, especially within the last couple of years. Of course. This is kind of a little off topic, but I have always been wanting to ask you this. I've seen you. I think it was a year ago. You used to commentate bowling and stuff. How did you even get into that? Because I think that's such an interesting avenue to go, especially commentate bowling. How did you kind of get that opportunity?
It's a funny one. There's a couple things that I've had my hand in that are always going under the radar, the bowling and the sumo wrestling play-by-play. The bowling was something that I sought out because for me, I'm always in search of becoming the best broadcaster I can be, and that means I must expand outside combat sports and sharpen my tools in other areas. And I thought that would be it would be challenging to get into more traditional mainstream sports like basketball or football, any MLB. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get in those avenues. But nobody's knocking on the door of bowling broadcasting, right? Nobody is fucking lining up going, man, bowling, I want to commentate that. And so I thought both it would be easier to get into and also something that would be very challenging. And it turned out to be. It took a long time to get with USBC and Bowl TV. I had to literally on my own dime in May of, I think it was 2023, I flew out to New Jersey, New Brunswick. They were doing the PBA Tournament of Champions. And I DM'd them on Twitter. I used the old Twitter to get this. They were like, yeah, we'll have you as a VIP, no worries. And so that weekend that I was at the TOC, I networked with as many people as I possibly could. Rob Stone, who's the play-by-play for PBA, was trying to get with him. Get as many people as I could. Got a few emails, followed up, and from May to literally fucking August, right? It was just following up, networking, and then they invited me to a bowling summit in Texas in October of 2023. And when I was there, they were like, yeah, we'd love to offer you a gig, and come do play-by-play on Bowl TV. So for pretty much all of last year, I was doing bowling shows in between the fighting and the combat sports commentary. And it was fun. I really liked all the people that I met there. And, the bowling industry is so unique and interesting in that, like, it's a niche. You can talk to a bowling guy and he'll be like, man, I was on frame 7 at Greensboro and I was throwing my purple urethane, and they just have this like encyclopedic photographic memory of all their fucking bowling. It's because I'm not a bowler. I am actually terrible at bowling, which I learned and they didn't let me forget. But like it was a really cool experience, and I feel like I did become a better broadcaster, and I was challenged as a broadcaster. Some of those shows, it was like 12 hours straight of just sitting in a booth commentating nothing but bowling. For 12 fucking hours. I mean, and that's like a challenge that I think broadcasters should be searching for. I had to come up with a million different ways to describe he threw the bowling ball at 10 pins. Had to find a million different ways to, juice that up and add some more spice and flavor to it. And I just love that opportunity. There was some management changes, some scheduling stuff, so I don't think I'll be doing bowling this year. But yeah, no, I love bowling. I appreciate you asking.
That's sick. No, I know, because I saw that and I'm like, dude, this is like, how do I say it? When you see like a celebrity and they're like at a random event and it's like, why are they there? Like, I was like,
why is Brad Pitt there?
No, seriously, that's what I kind of thought at first when I saw that. What I actually kind of on the thing, I remember there's a bowler, I think his name's Scott Weber, something like that, where Pete Weber, yeah.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Yeah, literally.
I commentated some of Pete's bowling, man. So he's on the PBA 50 tour. He is still fucking bowling. And funnily enough, he got kicked out of a tournament that I was commentating because, within bowling, there's so much emphasis on etiquette, right? And you need to be respectful of the people on the lanes around you. And Pete has this style, which he still does, where he's very loud, very electric. And so after a strike, he'll be, boom, and walk back to the, ball receive. And, that annoyed some people that night. And then when they got annoyed, Pete got more annoyed, and it just kept getting more inflamed. And then eventually the tournament director was like, Pete, you gotta, slow down. And then he stormed out, and I don't think he finished that tournament. So Pete Weber is still cooking.
That's so funny, because every time I think of like bowling and like the professional side of things, I always think of Pete Weber, or I kind of forgot his name just like not too long ago, but it's always something along the lines. Yeah, no, he's hilarious, bro.
It's the most viral bowling clip of all time. Who do you think you are? I am. Like there is not a single moment in bowling history, I would say, that eclipse, what the engagement that clip has brought. So
I've heard it in songs. Funny enough.
They've sampled it.
Yeah, they sampled it in a song. At the end, this is like this Big Sean song. Like at the end, he included the clip.
Yeah, who do you think you are? I am.
It's so funny. Last thing though, funny enough, we're like halfway through 2025. Year's gone pretty quick. I kind of want to ask, obviously every year people have goals. People are in progress, obviously achieve some goals. Where are you kind of with that? How are you feeling about, the goals you might have set up for 2025 and, possibly if you could achieve them?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, man. I'm such a huge fan of creating boxes to check and always striving towards something, There was a couple challenges I had to go through earlier than this year, and I'm excited for people to see what those challenges were. But for next year, man, I'm always someone that loves to set things up. And so For me, 2025 is just going to be about nailing everything that I have left on the calendar, adding to it as much as I can. But there's a few fun things in 2026 that I've got in the pipeline coming. So, I'll be transparent. One of the big things that I've always been interested in is getting involved with Olympic commentary, right? And that's difficult because, summer is every 4 years, winter's every 4 years, right? So it's hard to find those types of opportunities. But I feel confident that you'll see me calling some Olympic type event in some capacity in 2026.
That'll be super sick to see you on the Olympic stage. Because obviously that's like the worldwide, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that'll be insane. But anyways, Ben, I really appreciate you hopping on. Really means a lot. I can't believe you're around the area, so I was like,
No, thank you. Yeah. He hits me up and he's like, hey man, I heard you're in Sacramento. Can we do an interview? And I was like, absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time, man. It means a lot.
No, of course. And good luck, obviously, with your girlfriend in the CrossFit competition. Let me know how she does.
Good luck with your girlfriend, bro.
No, that's hilarious. All right, we'll end it right here. Dude, I appreciate that.